Hello, everyone. Welcome to Virtual Fridays, Dire Literary Series. And tonight, I have a wonderful guest, the author of the #1 best-selling book of fiction on small press distribution, her new book, Jerks. And I'm not calling you out there, Jerks. It's the name of the book is Jerks. And let me tell you a little bit about Sara. And there she is looking badass. Sara received a BA from Brown and an MFA from the New School. She's written for national magazines, co-hosted the Sunday Salon, a monthly New York City reading series, which was awesome. Taught creative writing at Rutgers, St. Joseph's College, and with Ditmas writing workshops. Her stories have been published widely in print and online. Wigleaf's Top 50, which is a great honor. A mentor at Girls Right Now, 2012 Fellowship of Fiction from New York Foundation for the Arts. So if you want to find out a little bit more, saralippmann.com, which is 2 P's and 2 N's. Well, I would like to, I'm really happy to welcome you. So Sara, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Timothy, for the unabridged version of that bio. And thanks all of you for taking some moments out of your Friday evening to be here tonight. It's such a pleasure to see all of you. Yeah, this book just came out a couple weeks ago. I'm just highlighting the cover because the designer did such a fantastic job. I think it's friggin' hilarious. And I can't get enough of it. Wait, am I really foggy? Sorry if I'm really foggy. Maybe my camera's really dirty, but anyway, we'll have to deal with that. So I'm gonna read, I'll read one piece and then maybe I'll read another piece. We'll see how much time there is, or we could just, maybe I'll just read one piece and we can chat. And maybe Timothy, you can vote on that after I read the first one. I'm going to read a really short piece of a flash that's in this book. It's not a book that's all flash fiction at all, but this one is. It's called Charity Case. For all that she wants, Janie knows Mr. Nielsen will never kiss her. He conducts. When he conducts, his hair whips, his arms fly through the air, his mustache glistens. There are dark rings in his pits. Janie wants to be the kind of person whose devotion yields dark rings. Her father calls this giving it one's all. Her mother gave it her all. She lost. There are no miracles. There are only days marked by dinners from the coordinated meal chain, days of ladies with Pyrex and tinfoil, pitying ladies who draw Janie to their stuffy breasts to comfort their own worried hearts, to convince themselves that Janie's mother's fate won't befall them. The neighborhood has seen enough. Janie has seen casseroles, stuffed shells. She saw one lady of the chain bent between her father's knees. Mr. Nielsen, Janie heard, does not even like girls. He'd been a daytime soap star before becoming a music teacher, she heard. She's also heard about hamsters and celebrity buttholes. Janie knows you can't believe what you hear. On the gym bleachers, she stands next to Candace Connor, whose mom supposedly had her at 15. They are both altos. Once Janie saw Candace's mom at the roller rink in Jordache jeans. She is beautiful. Candace's mom will live forever. Today is the dress rehearsal. They sing Rudolph, Frosty, Hallelujah. Mr. Nielsen works himself into a froth for Do You Hear What I Hear, which is done in a round. Janie lip syncs the Jesus parts of Silent Night, and still her face reddens like a hot plate. Her voice is not missed. Mr. Nielsen only accepted her into chorus because of her mother. At the funeral, other mothers brought Janie gifts wrapped in silver and blue. Her father passed along these gestures of kindness. There was nothing to do but pass along other people's gestures as if they might alleviate some grief. Every night of Hanukkah, he gave her a $1 bill to put in a safe place. He gave her knee socks. Today, with the socks, she's wearing her jeans skirt with the snaps and flare, a white button down her father found in the boys' department. Her calves itch. She smells like apple juice. A meal chain lady tried to do something about her hair last night, but Janie said, "Thank you, you've done enough." When they sing about dreidels, Mr. Nielsen gives Janie an extra head bob, which makes her cheeks burn. She's not sure if she should feel special or singled out. Chorus is supposed to make her feel less alone. Tomorrow, they'll go downtown as a group to Wanamaker's. They will do their show in the department store lobby between cosmetics and perfume. The lobby will be festooned in lights and pine and poinsettia. They will sing, and the shoppers and sales clerks and non-working parents will whoop and clap. Afterward, every child in Brook Valley District Choir will ride the escalator to the North Pole. The gate will be strewn in clumps of fake snow, like the inside of quilts. In his chair, Santa will be flanked by candy canes and human elves. For balance, there will be a cardboard oil can, which will look like a genie's lamp. There will also be electric menorahs whose fat orange bulbs will either be lit wrong or burned out. Not that it matters. The holiday falls differently each year. This year, it is already over. In Joy to the World, Janie makes perfect O's with her mouth, like Mr. Nielsen taught her. She wonders if he notices. She wonders what the ladies will bring for dinner tonight, when they'll stop bringing, when the ladies will be replaced by just one lady. She wonders how she'll respond to Santa tomorrow, if she'll be fresh or demure, if she'll deliver a laundry list. Last year, she wore her Star of David defiantly on his lap, only instead of dismissing her, he tightened his grip and said, "Jewish girls can want things too." So that's the first piece. I sort of have a companion piece, but I also don't need to read it. So it's kind of up to you all.
How about we do it based on time? How is it, like a short piece?
Yeah,
Short
it's
of
like
time?
it's like less than 5 minutes or 5
All right,
minutes, something like
Go
that.
for it. I'd love to hear it.
Okay. So this is called Neighbors. This is also, I think it's flash length. Maybe it's a teeny bit longer, but Neighbors. To your left, hipsters, musicians to your right, behind you, bankers and lawyers, at night, the dust of stars. A harvest moon, brave as Jupiter, sits on your roof as a reminder that the whole world is not worth giving up, which isn't to say a moon can fill you, but maybe it's a start. Go outside already. A spider you don't know by name does her work in the door frame, and you plow right into it, ruining her viscous string meant to keep you in or out. A car roars, tricked out speakers, engines gunning the works. Who isn't crying out for something? Around the corner, a car alarm's been at it for hours. In the morning, there will be a sack of shit on the windowsill. On the windshield, a gift from neighbors. It is impossible to know. Your street is long and shady. The waft of weed as common as dogs because neighbors need company. This one has a ball hoop, that one a trampoline. Once upon a time, children played kick the can, street hockey after school until the dads pulled in. One dad killed his wife in the bathtub while their toddler slept. News cameras parked on lawns reported the story. Call girl. Debt plus life insurance equals freedom. The algorithm laid out on a piece of scrap paper. Google it. Not what you'd expect from suburbia, but then again, nothing is. Another died in his armchair as the World Series played on TV. The doctor 2 doors down made a house call, but what can you do? Hearts stop. That doctor left his marriage for another woman or maybe a man. The chemist housed lab rats in his basement. From his cellar window, you could hear the collective suck of water bottle teats, smell the exhaust of his fabric softener. Why are clouds of comfort so bad for the planet? It's hard not to think about dying. That's part of the problem. Your husband says it's not depression, it's being home all day, every day. You need to get out to see people. Your husband says he would want to kill himself too if he had your life. He means well, and you know what he means. Take a walk, go to the pharmacy, fill your prescription, stock up on children's vitamins. You buy the crappiest off-brand aluminum foil because you don't wish to outlive it. The glint of Freddy Krueger's hands once sent you running from sleepovers. Children tossed your lovey in the oven. This is your horror story. Violence is everywhere. The neighborhood has changed, no judgment, only of course there is. Why should anything stay the same? Check out the hair and shoes on the actor across the street who gets drunk on the porch and watches you. Some people are home. You've been home for years. Thank God for squirrels. One house was the color of an inner ear. Used to be a hotel, went the rumor. On Halloween, blood pumped through a dummy, scaring the hell out of you, but you've always been scared. Those neighbors had mice as pets, cats too, and a Christmas tree 20 feet tall that stood in the hall shedding needles till spring. Lance Jezebel ran for public office and lost. Janice Proctor ran for school council and won. Both were haunted by scandal. Sherry Johnson with juvenile diabetes invited you over to watch her piano stick. You played weebles until they all fell down. Children on the trampoline jump higher, their voices lilting. A pair of ancient oaks frame a house of swingers. Renters keep their lights on. Bone-thin curtains giving way to laughter, shadows, and bodies. Can they hear you jerk it 3 stories up? Do they know how alone you are? In the house on the corner where the sidewalk dropped off, you once broke the picket fence. Everyone was young men. These days, holiday decorations go missing. People are suspicious. You no longer know who is Tina Turner, who is Frankenstein. Elvira runs marathons in your sleep. The garage door opens onto the initials of children who came before you. Smash pinky balls against bricks spelling ASS. You know this game. Marvin Price's daughter got bigger, but never grew up. She still plays dolls and Barry Manilow albums. In her mind, it is forever 1983. A new neighbor dies, cancer. No one comes to mourn. The Russians keep their children on a leash. A bachelor named Kelvin keeps to himself until his T-top breaks down on the parkway and he is instantly crushed. Supposedly your house once belonged to hoarders, but you moved in empty. There's little a paint job and a savvy real estate agent can't handle. The walk is littered with ginkgo nuts, horse chestnut pods reminiscent of morning stars. Neighbors shack up on the top floor while scaffolding overruns their living room. They're not the only ones under construction. Your gutters are overflowing too. On trash days, you roll out the trash, but the raccoons have been getting to it, so you sit on the step with your strobe, with your frozen pizza suggestive of cheese. Sit and wink that big yellow light, beam and shine in the dark, and wait for eyes to flash back at you. Thanks.
Wow, that was 2 amazing pieces. And they're both from your new book entitled Jerks.
Yeah.
All right. So I've got some questions for you, and I encourage people to put some questions in the chat as well. My main one is, you said the book is mixed with flash and longer pieces. Did you have a difficult time mixing it that way, or is it easier for you to have like a whole book of shorter pieces or a whole book of longer pieces?
So I would say there's only about four flash pieces. Most of them are, I'd say my sweet spot for short stories tend to be in like the 2,000 to 3,000 range. There are a couple that are longer, like 6 or 7, but they tend to be like 2 to 3. And then there are a couple that are just shorter. In terms of putting the collection together, it was actually, once I had the title short story Jerks, once that story came out and I knew that if I were to ever write another collection, I would sort of center it around that title. And so then it became sort of this fun puzzle of like what stories resonate with that title. So the manuscript initially was 55,000 words, and it came in and was accepted by Mason Jar at 55,000 words. But then they came back at me and said, actually, we only want to do books at 40,000 words or fewer. So then I had the interesting challenge of cutting out, reducing from 55 down to 40. So a lot of stories landed on the cutting room floor, but the ones that I chose, and I guess this taps along John's question about, well, what story, I can talk about order in a second, but like what stories stayed in were ones that like, that spoke to the theme. I mean, but spoke to this, spoke to Jerks, which is sort of was the overlight, overarching guiding light of the book, but that perhaps that didn't come at it from the same angle, right? So it came at it from different angles. And so I eliminated the stories that perhaps were hammering the same beat.
And do you have plans for those stories?
I don't know. It's interesting. Like I have probably half of another collection, but I have a novel coming out in October, and I haven't really been writing short stories. So I don't know. I mean, short stories are always my first and primary love, and flash fiction in particular has a very, very special personal place in my heart because it helped me to get back to writing after a really long time away from writing. So, but I haven't been generating in the short form recently.
Now, with your novel, did that originally in your head, did that start as a short story that expanded, or did you sit down and be like, I'm writing a novel and this is the layout of this?
So I love that question because I am typically a short story writer, and I think my narrative, like the narratives that I think are in short story form, but I knew I had a novel because it felt there was a different sense of the elasticity, and I didn't have I just knew that it took me, oh my God, it took me like almost 10 years to write this book, and it changed so many times from its initial seedling, but it looked differently to me initially. So I knew that was going to be a novel. It didn't outgrow from a story.
So a lot of your output is ending up based on feelings. Is that a proper conclusion? Like there's a certain feel to the book, or a certain feel to the story. It's going to be this, it's going to hit this length.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like, I don't know. I mean, I'm old. I've been around a while. People like to project all kinds of different things on it, but on your creative process. But I feel like all we really have as writers is our gut and our gut instinct. So I trying to, and it's not always natural, but I try to just sort of trust whatever maybe this sounds really woo woo, but to trust like those initial gut instincts. So yeah, so when I have a seedling of an idea, like usually I have a vague sense that, oh, this is gonna be an idea that's gonna be of flash length, and oh, this is an idea that's gonna be full story length, and oh, this is an idea that's going to be a more sustained narrative. And it's just like, it's amorphous and instinctual. And certainly I try to stay open to the fact that I can be wrong, because I'm wrong all the time. But I don't know. I feel like that initial impulse is something that I try to honor, at least in drafting.
Now, does living in New York kind of fertilize your creativity?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's funny because, this book kind of gets at Brooklyn pretty hard, So I mean, the fact is that there's no shortage of material anywhere. And I think it's important just that, for all of us, we're just what our job is as writers is just to pay attention and stay attuned and like stay open to whatever kind of comes in. And so I've tried to stay open to it. I mean, I will say in terms of, short stories and novels, that this book is what I call my cheat book. Like I was very much supposed to be working on a novel, but as a natural short story writer, like I found myself cheating on the novel, particularly in that messy middle ground when things are really hard in a novel, with short stories. So this is kind of like the wart that grew out of the novel. For which I'm so grateful, but they're really different muscles for me. And one comes more naturally and one is much more hard won.
Do any of your characters from your stories make special guest appearances in the novel, or any of your novel characters induce a short story later on?
Well, okay, so there's one short story in this collection. The story is called, it's a line from a Bruce Springsteen song, but it's there's a joke in here somewhere, and that's on me. The substance of that, it's a really short flash piece. It's probably like 500, 700 words, but that piece has now informed not the novel that's coming out in October, but the project that I'm working on now, which is novel length and has that sort of, has a lot of that material that I'm just expanding.
John has a question. How do you overcome publishers' reluctance to publish short story collections?
Oh, this is so fun. This is a good question. So I love this. And again, forgive me, I know we're being recorded, but Timothy should know better. I have no filter. So, first and foremost, like circle of trust, friends, and I just want to underscore the chasm between art and marketplace, right? So, in all confidence, John, my agent read this collection and said, well, unless you're published in the New Yorker, I'm not going to shop this collection. So it's on you. And so I sent it to small press. I mean, I've always been with small press. Small presses speak to me. I really love what small presses are doing. It's electrifying. And so that's what I did. So I think I think I hit 45 in the height of the pandemic, and maybe, I guess in 2020, I hit 45 and threw up all my fucks. And so once you get rid of that, and once you honestly get rid of the publishing industry and whatever those expectations are, it's real, and you have to get rid of it so fully, but then it becomes actually a really liberating space to be in. So I would just say, if you have a short story collection and you believe in it, there are really exciting avenues that you can pursue that are outside of the mainstream big five or big three or whatever they are at this moment.
Now, reading the reviews from Jerks, there are such words as unleashed carnal desires and lust and misbehaviors. So, so does Jerks unleash these more so than the usual stuff, or is it just is it a different feel?
Well, so no, I mean, I'd say it's there's an immediacy to Jerks that's maybe hiding more in my first short story collection, Doll Palace. But I will say this, that as I was saying, Jerks is my wart of the novel. So it was this idea that I was transgressing, I was cheating on the novel with these stories. And so as I was cheating and transgressing, what happened was these stories became sort of transgressive stories in and of themselves. So I'd say that was the genesis, and that's sort of the echo.
Also, the theme in these reviews are your humor and the humor in your stories. Now, are funny writers funny people?
I don't know, or miserable people. I don't know. It's interesting to hear that because
stand-up comics.
My kids would not say that I'm very funny at all, but so much of these stories were birthed. Many of these stories were birthed out of the frustration and despair and anger of the election, and so I feel like if you can't laugh through the misery, what are we doing? So
and one thing I noticed, even with those two stories that you wrote, you're the queen of exaggerating, but exaggerating in such a day-to-day type of tone. So for example, one house was the color of an inner ear. And that's not an exaggeration, but just the description is very poetic. Do you also write poetry? And if you do you use your poetry chops in your other writing?
Again, circle of trust. This is so confessional. I love it. I'm a terrible poet. I'm terrified by poetry. I mean, I teach it, a lot of times when I was teaching at Rutgers or St. Joe's, we always have to, we cover poetry, but it's really, I've only taken a handful of poetry workshops in my life, or not even a handful, maybe a couple, let's say a couple of poetry workshops. I really am, it's actually one of my goals actually is to take some poetry workshops and to become more familiar and less less caught up, but I've always been driven by language. I think that I came to writing initially. So like, I guess what I'm saying is that poetry as a genre, as title, has always been sort of intimidating to me. And for whatever reason, I think this is a factor of one's schooling, perhaps. But I came to the page because of language. And so it was always language first. And so I guess that that's something that perhaps I do share with poets.
Jeffrey asks about, he says he loves a good one-liner. What's your favorite line you've written?
Oh my God.
Go back to the 300,678 lines of Sara Lippmann.
I can't, God, do I have a favorite? I don't think I think that, Jeffrey, first of all, I appreciate that question. But one thing you should know about me is that like, I will never, it's hard for me to say, oh, these are stories that I like, or oh, these are sentences that I like. And I'm wary of that. And often whenever I come to a sentence that I feel like I like, that means that I need to cut it. If that's any sense. So I've learned to become wary of sort of that preciousness. So I don't know that I have a favorite sentence. I think that there are a lot of sentences in this book that are sort of instrumental to sort of the overarching thesis, which is important to me.
There's that term in writing, which is like, say it a different way.
Mhm.
The mundane, the descriptive. And I noticed that in your writing. Does that come naturally to you, or do you say, okay, I'm going to describe this, I'm going to reach for that, or does it just flow out of you?
Well, when you're talking about the mundane, I mean, this is what I teach to my students. It's like, there's so, I mean, maybe it sounds trite, but the universe in a grain of sand, right? Like, it doesn't have to be surface extraordinary to be extraordinary, right? And so we find, that's what we do as writers, is we find the extraordinary, we find the startling in the mundane. And so I'm someone who has a pretty tame existence. I'm just pulling from what what we've got here. And so the challenge becomes how to extrapolate that and make it interesting, so that it doesn't feel hackneyed and banal.
All right, I'm going to wrap up with you with this. You are a mentor for Girls Right Now, and you mentored girls empowering women in writing. So that's very important, to empower women. But how does that stand, empowering women in writing? How does that stand on the scale of things of overall empowerment?
Well, so I'm no longer a mentor. I think that bio needs an update, but I'm no longer a mentor with Girls Right Now. But I did spend a couple of years with one particular high school student, and I followed her, and it was a really profound experience to have someone tell you, and this is actually something that I wrote about recently in an essay, but to have someone tell you that your voice matters, and your voice matters as it is, right? Like, that your honest voice as you come to it is the voice that you should be using, that you should not be throwing your voice to impress anybody. Like, who you are is your voice, and that is vital and resonant. And so I think that, like, as a mentor, that was just a profound experience to be able to tell this 14-year-old and 15-year-old. And then she wound up at Hopkins, as an undergrad, but to be able to like affirm the fact that her voice really matters, and as it is, I think it's a really, it's something that I regret not having as a kid. And I think the sooner, it took me a really long time to get there, to kind of own our voice and like own our shit and own our point of view and own our obsession and own whatever it is that's the stuff of our narrative that makes us uniquely ours, whether it's with girls or whether whoever it is, but that idea of just shouldering it is I mean, that's, to me, that's all it is. I mean, that's what we're doing. It's just I don't know, maybe that's obvious, but it took me a really long time to get there. So
That's wonderful. And, thank you so much. And I want to show everyone, here's jerks, you jerks. So pick
there it
this
is.
out wherever fine books are sold. And do you have a favorite indie bookstore or shop that people can order this online?
Mason Jar Press is doing great in terms of direct orders. Bookshop.org is wonderful because it supports independent presses. And SPD is also a terrific distributor. So I think it's about to go into a new printing. So yeah, thank you so much. This is really fun. I really appreciate everybody's questions. And I saw questions about pizza. Whoever was asking about pizza, oh my gosh. And like,
Best New
there's
York
just
pizza.
such a cornucopia of pizza. It's, you're asking for a level of fidelity that I just, I'm kind of slutty when it comes to pizza. The great thing about New York City is that there's great pizza on every corner. I mean, there are the certain fancy places, but I also really love my husband's pizza, but it's one of the best things that you can go on any corner and have a totally satisfying slice. So
awesome. Great answer. And so the folks that are watching this on Facebook and the live stream, thank you very much. And we're going to shut you guys off in a minute. But please, if you want to show up at the open mic, don't be shy. You can log in, use the link, and do the open mic, and that's totally fine. So don't worry about that. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you all next week.